is not the betting favorite, mind you.
Mm-hmm.
They lost one to another team that I believe is tonight will have a chance to get to the Final Four. Am I right on that?
Yeah, all of their games that they lost will be to a team that will be in the Final Four.
Is potentially in the Final Four?
Yeah, because Texas and UConn play tonight.
Okay, yeah, sure. Good point.
So they lost to UCLA, who's in.
Yep.
And either Texas or UConn will be in.
And yet we kind of threw dirt on them, and we're like, I don't know about this team this year.
What's going to happen?
Chalk it up and let's just go to next year.
What's wrong with them?
Here they sit, and again, and yesterday, boy, did they make it interesting. They get out to the big lead. I thought they were just going to pull away and have little to no problem at all with Duke. They got the nice lead early on, and then lo and behold, it's like they started celebrating. And then you turned around and they're down, and I was going, boy, this thing might come to a screeching halt, and we didn't see this coming.
Yeah, and it had the rhythm of the game, the way Duke was running that ridiculous offense that they run, and they're executing at a very high level, pick and rolls, ball screens, everything's happening. It's like, I don't like the way this game feels right now. It's just, as a novice basketball watcher, one of the things I always look for is how easy are the buckets. And it felt like our buckets were really hard to get. Took extraordinary efforts, like fadeaway jump shots from Fagan. And it felt like Duke was getting layups. A lot of layups. A lot of not easy buckets. They were just running their offense, and it just felt like, I don't like the way this is rolling. But they got it together.
Tonight, you mentioned it, the first game will be Texas and TCU at 7 o'clock, Texas TCU, and then on the flip side of that at 9 o'clock, it'll be Southern Cal and Connecticut. Now, here's what's really interesting, and we'll transition because we'll get more into the women's side of things. This gives them the chance for 4 number 1 seeds to go to the Final Four. If Southern Cal and Texas were to win tonight, flip it over to the men's side of things. It is all chalk. All 4 1 seeds. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this would never have happened before, where in both the women's and the men's, all 8 top seeds advance to the Final Four. It could have. I don't know. I haven't seen an ESPN stat. You know how ESPN will stat stuff up there.
Stat boy, get on that.
But I would assume if it has happened before, it's only happened once. I can't believe that this would be something that's a common occurrence in the 80s and the 90s.
Well, it's more likely in the women's tournament because traditionally the 1 seed is further from the field than everyone else. And so it's the surprising aspect is that in the men's tournament that you see it happen this time.
Well, when it's all said and done, it took a little while, but we finally had our brackets busted.
Yeah.
And I end up with just one Final Four team in Houston. And I believe you also have Houston, and that's all we had.
That's all I got.
And neither of us had Houston in the national championship game. So I would say it's officially a busted bracket. But we get 4 1 seeds. And it was an interesting weekend, but I didn't feel like you got great games, Preston.
That's fair to say. Games were competitive. But we've talked about this before. I don't know if the men's tournament gets better as it goes along. Even though we have these number 1 seeds, right. I don't know if the men's tournament gets better as it goes along. It's the competitive to me. I think for lack of a better pun, I think that Sweet 16 round is the most highly competitive round, and I don't know if it gets better.
The Thursday-Friday games there. I can be with you on that because you did get the really fun. You got the really fun Houston-Purdue game. Houston had a great play drawn up Friday night at the very end to get the ball in and score. Yesterday, obviously, kind of anticlimactic. Auburn 70-64 over Michigan State. So Bruce Pearl takes Auburn back to the Final Four. Florida, I just continue to underestimate Florida. And look, I thought that they were going down. I thought Texas Tech had them, and then here comes Florida roaring back and gets the job done on, I believe that was Saturday night. Florida advances to the Final Four. You got an Auburn-Florida game coming up. This is the Bill Gunner Final Four, by the way. I mean, all chalk. I'm happy with it. And then I have to come back and be like, I also don't like conference on conference.
I know I said I wanted cheesecake, but Oreo cheesecake,
yeah.
It's kind of like Jerry Seinfeld-ish.
I know. I said I wanted all 4 of these, and I'm happy, but can we have like Duke, Auburn, and Florida, Houston? Can we switch these around? Yeah, I don't like conference on conference violence when you get to the Final Four, but I'll live with it. Saturday night, 6:09 p.m. They'll get going there, Auburn and Florida, and then the late game, Duke, Houston. All right, real quick here, we'll come back and we'll discuss all of this, obviously. But your Monday morning gut situation on this, what do we got? Who wins?
Duke?
Yeah, that's who I'm with.
Duke? I don't say that with a ton of confidence, but yeah, I guess I'll roll with Duke.
After calling Duke one of the most overrated teams, something I said at the beginning, tongue in cheek. But yeah, Duke to me, I watched them. So I was really excited. I love college basketball, but very rarely do I go out of my way. If it's not a South Carolina game, to have like appointment viewing, to like sit down and be like, all right, we're watching this game. And I was really excited for that Duke Alabama game. And man, I watched just about every second of it. It was late into the evening as it was wrapping up on Saturday night, and I was kind of looking at it like, all right, it's time. They're up 15 with about a minute and a half to go. I think we can safely go to bed now. I don't need to see what happens afterwards. But it was certainly a game that didn't live up to the hype, but was still fairly entertaining.
And that's a very possible thing.
So a lot of that. 803-404-6100. So we're going to get into a lot of that coming up this morning. We'll talk about the baseball team. Paul Maneri maybe realizing SEC a little bit more difficult than he initially thought. We'll talk about that. We'll get back into the women's basketball game as well. Jamie Bradford set to join us. We'll talk a lot of baseball with him this morning. A lot to get to. If you want to be a part of the program, 803-404-6100. Let's get out to the phone lines. Joe wants to weigh in this morning on women's basketball. Joe, how you doing this morning? What's on your mind?
Hey, fellas, good morning. How you guys doing, man?
Good.
Hey, so listen, I've been watching the girls play. If you think about it, all of the ladies this year have had a good game from a scoring standpoint. They stood out, except for Raven Johnson. I'm just looking for her to add another level to her game this year. She hit that one big three last night. But if you pay attention, a lot of the teams don't pay attention to her when she's at the three-point line because she hasn't hit that shot all year. So I just look for her to add another level to her game because we're going to need it. I mean, I just think that's the only thing. She's the only player that's missing when it comes to folks being scared of, because this year she hasn't had that game this year. I haven't seen that game. Bill, I'd like to hear what you have to say about that. Great show this morning, fellas, as usual. I look forward to your answer to that, Bill.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a good day, guys.
Appreciate it.
I don't know if that's Raven. I think if what Joe was referring to there is the fact that Raven hadn't had a kind of, as he just said, a big scoring game. Preston, I don't know if that is her MO. Raven has had a very interesting career in basketball terms. She got shown up nationally. She got embarrassed nationally 2 years ago by Caitlin Clark, basically waving her off at the free throw line. And if you do that in the schoolyard when nobody's watching, it's embarrassing. When you do it at the Final Four in front of millions of people who are watching, it's really embarrassing. And Raven bounced back and got the better of Caitlin Clark last year and had the pivotal steal right before halftime that I think really turned that game and really developed and changed her game. But Raven's averaging 5 points per game this year. She is a leader that runs the offense. She is second on the team in assist. And by the way, I mean, her and Tahina Paopao are first and second by a large margin. Nobody's really even close. Tahina Paopao's got 109. Raven Johnson's got 104. The difference there, Raven Johnson has only got 37 turnovers all year. She's a distributor. And so I understand what Joe's asking, but I think she plays her role to what her role is. And I just don't think that's not something you're going to ask of her. You're going to ask Malaysia Fulwiley to come in and drive Dawn Staley crazy and throw up shots that most people would go sit on a bench for. You're going to ask, Tahina Paopao to score. You're going to ask Tessa Johnson to hit shots when she goes in. You're asking Bree Hall to do her thing. Obviously, Chloe Kitts and Joyce Edwards. Joyce Edwards has lived up to being the freshman that we all thought. She has led the team in scoring with 12 points. I think just the thing with Raven is she plays her role.
Nothing more to add to that. I totally agree with that.
803-404-6100. We'll get into some baseball. It was boy, it was an agitating weekend, I think. And we'll talk and we'll let you hear a little bit from Paul Maneri about that. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, Monday morning edition of the early game. Bill Gunner for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder and First Palmetto Bank. Let me tell you, I know we're heading to April, and you might now have officially decided what you want to do this year. Maybe you really want to refinance and find the right interest rates and the right person. Maybe you want to buy a new home, but you're trying to figure out what the interest rates are going to be, and maybe you're just looking to downsize, and you need to also make some decisions there. Well, it all starts with the financial aspect of it. What are those interest rates? How much money do you need to put down? What is going to be the monthly mortgage payments? These are all important questions that Jacob Crowder, the mortgage guru, can answer for you today. You just need to give him a phone call. 803-719-1005. Again, that's 803-719-1005. Jacob helped me several years ago pick out a great home on Lake Murray, but also get the right interest rate, the right down payment, and the right mortgage payment for the month. Call him today, 803-719-1005. Tell him Bill Gunner sent you.
And we do have just one accident reported out there on the highways this morning. So just one accident out there right now that you might want to be aware of, and that's I-77 northbound at 12th Street. That would be exit 2. Again, that's I-77 northbound at exit 2. An accident there. We're starting off the day with a little bit of fog this morning. Could see some strong storms a little bit later on today. 76 for the high. An overnight low of 55. Tomorrow we'll see clouds and 76. By Wednesday up to 81, and we round out the week in the upper 80s. So certainly welcoming that. Just have to get through some showers or storms this afternoon and this evening. But right now, a little bit of fog, as I mentioned, and it's currently 64 on 107.5 The Game.
$6:19 as we get you up and get you going on a Monday morning. We wrap up Preston's favorite month. Did we come to a conclusion on that?
Yeah, I think March is the month. March is a great month for all the things that I really enjoy.
Okay.
You get even there's a couple of setbacks. One being tornadoes, two being daylight saving time. So those are maybe a little bit of the setbacks. But as far as the weather is concerned, sports are at an all-time high. Things are changing. I think there's a lot of celebrations. Mardi Gras, St. Patrick's Day.
That's good.
March is a very high, a number one seed in months.
Okay.
I'll give a number one seed. October being another one seed. I think those are the championship. I think that's my championship matchup. December obviously has a big thing going for it. January is a 16 seed.
Okay.
There's only 12 months. January is a 16 seed.
I was going to give you April. April's up there. You got to think. Final Four this weekend.
True.
Darlington this weekend.
True.
Masters next weekend.
True.
RBC Heritage.
Okay.
Throw in a little bit of South Carolina spring games. South Carolina still having their spring games, so we should be specific to that. Easter.
Yes.
Weather gets a little bit better.
Okay.
Underrated.
I'm picking up where you put
a dangerous 3 seed. A dangerous 3 seed is what the month of April is.
I'll take that at 3 seed.
You blink and they're up on you 15.
I got it. I like it.
803-404-6100. Gamecocks and Tennessee baseball this weekend. And like I said, you want to make it a big deal. We wanted to make it a big deal, but you also looked at what had transpired. You know, what had transpired over the previous few weeks with South Carolina baseball. And you look at what Tennessee is doing, and you just kind of realize, Preston, this was an extreme uphill battle, and it started on Saturday nights, Friday evening. Key era in that game opens the door to a 5-run inning, and Tennessee goes on to win 11-7. Saturday's game is South Carolina baseball this year. They are who they are. I mean, I hate to say it's just they are who they are. They are not clutch, and we'll play a little clip on that. They don't get the pitch when they need it. They don't get the hit when they need it. So many opportunities. It doesn't happen, and they lose 7-5. And yesterday, Tennessee just pounds the ball out of the ballpark. 7-2 is the final.
Yeah, and it's really interesting between one of the things I was trying to figure out was whether the teams that they were playing were good or whether the team that we have is not good. And it's a little bit – it's not that they're not good, but I think you nailed it, is that good teams usually get those hits or make that pitch or make that play, and this team has not been able to do that when it matters. And so, as long as they're not able to do that in this league, it's gonna be a long season.
Yeah, they're not. I don't know how to describe it because when you lose, you're bad.
Yes.
Like we deemed the men's basketball team bad. They were 2-15. But I see a lot of similarities in the men's basketball team not being able to close out games, losing those stretch of games to Florida, to Auburn, to I believe Texas A&M, Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was the other one. It was a 3-point loss there. You think about those early on, and this baseball team giving themselves opportunities. Sunday game against Oklahoma, Saturday game against Tennessee, other opportunities there. Obviously, there was no opportunities against Arkansas, but throw in the North Carolina game. It's 8-8 in the 8th. South Carolina is there and then the clutch gene doesn't show up and the other team makes the plays. I mean, that you hate to go, boy, basketball, baseball, are you the Spider-Man meme? But it seems like that's what we're getting right now.
That seems very fair. And it feels as if they're off to a similar fate. Whereas I don't know if that's more frustrating as a fan because they can be competitive. They just can't. Nah, no.
You're just waiting. I hate to say it, as a fan, you're just waiting for the shoe to drop. You're waiting for the pitch that gets banged out of the ballpark.
I was going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say like they can't get over the hump, but I don't think they're even there yet. I don't even think they're there.
One of the things is Paul Maneri's having to relearn the SEC, and he talked about this on Friday night. And I don't know what to make of this, but let's let you hear Paul Maneri talking about the strength of the SEC Friday night after the Gamecocks lost 11-7.
The league is clearly better than it was when I retired. You know, like I said, this transfer portal, you just, if you have, okay, this kid finishes, now they got to go with a freshman and he's going to go, you're going to have some growing pain. They don't do that anymore. They just go out and fill it with a veteran from some other school. And, the players are older. They're bigger and stronger because of nutrition and weightlifting and everything else that everybody is so emphatic about nowadays. So I was a little bit surprised at just how athletic all the teams. I mean, they were always athletic. I've been in the SEC 15 years before this, but in the last 3 years, I just feel like the players have gotten bigger and stronger and more experienced. So, it's been a little bit of a surprise. But, what do you want me to do, John? I got to go into the season with confidence and positiveness and believe, make our players believe in themselves. I couldn't stand up in front of everybody and say, well, don't anybody expect much from us this year because, we're not any good. I'm not going to say something so silly as that. And I still believe in our guys. I still believe that we have talent on this team. There's some things we have to overcome. And, I'm not going to, go specifics and analyze every little thing about our team, but, there's areas that we absolutely need to improve. And we will. But, I can't do it right now. We can't make mid-season trades, So you go with the guys you got. Get them to compete as hard as they can. And for a lot of these guys, it's their last year here. So I'm not giving up. We're never going to give up, And wherever we are, we'll be. Whatever we can earn and deserve, we'll be. Obviously, the road is long, and we got a lot of great teams ahead of us that we're going to play. But nobody here is going to give up or get down and throw up their hands and say, oh, gosh, we can't compete.
So, okay, remember, it's not like he was gone. It's not like he was out of the league 10 years and came back to discover this. He left in 2021. It's 2022, 2023, and now he's back, and the league has all of a sudden changed dramatically for him.
I'm looking forward to the moment when my daughter brings home homework from school, and I try to do it, and I'm like, oh, this is what they're doing in third grade now? That's what it felt like. Paul Maneri was like, oh, yeah, I can do this. No problem. Fractions? What? New math? What's going on here? Like, he's like, I don't know what's happening here. Things change very quickly. I don't know if, I think people were trying to, I don't know if he was talking out loud for the first time, if he was saying that for the first time. I don't know if Monty has been trying to tell him this or what. I don't know, but that was a very illuminating clip to me, a very interesting peek into what his thought process.
You and I, part of this program, we tend to maybe overread between the lines, but we read between the lines. And a few weeks ago, he started talking about, one of the things we just got to, and he says it in that smooth, subtle tone. So you can kind of, and as you've mentioned, you hear the ping of the bat in the background. You can kind of drift off into la la land, and his words are just flowing over you. And you miss some things. You can miss some things. One of the things he said a couple weeks ago was, well, we just got to kind of fix this with recruiting. Hence, we're not good enough. And then he says, well, this league's harder than I remembered it being, and I'm a little caught off guard by it.
Yeah, and I can see that. Things have changed. What's interesting is that the league has seemed to progress. If by proxy, if the league has progressed, you would think South Carolina has progressed also. Doesn't seem as that has been the case. And so I think that is very interesting. Also, if we're reading between the lines, Bill, he also stated that this is a lot of players last year. And I wonder if he wasn't just talking about seniors.
Good point.
right? So, yes, we understand that some people are leaving because their eligibility is done. But I'd imagine this was also some players last year's because of the transfer portal and things that he mentioned earlier.
It's
if we're reading between the lines.
And from my understanding, I will say also this: you heard him mention the transfer portal.
He also mentioned midseason trades.
Yeah, yeah. I
want that guy.
This is where I wonder, because Daryl weighs in and says, question is South Carolina baseball recruiting doing okay? I don't think they're like top half of the league. It's not where you're like, all right, reinforcements are on the way. They're going to have to kind of fix this, it appears, a little bit through the transfer portal in the offseason and picking up some studs. Speaking of picking up some studs, we'll get up later on to South Carolina basketball. May have helped themselves a little bit with the transfer portal over the weekend. But coming up next, we'll get back into the women's basketball side of things.
Sign of your times.
We'll go to the positive. I was going to text you last night and ask if we had to do the old Oreo coaching approach. What is it, the two crackers are the positives, the cream in the middle is the bad. Isn't that right? Isn't that I never pulled that with my teams, but positives, negative, positive. Make you feel good about yourself.
We're back to the positive.
We'll get back to the positives, and we'll get back into more baseball coming up next hour with Jamie Bradford. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. It is the early game.
Hey, it's Jen for Carolina Stone Craftsman, just outside Columbia in Chapin. Some renovations that we did in a couple of bathrooms. We replaced some cabinets and, of course, needed countertops to put on top. Well, what did we do? We reached out to Carolina Stone Craftsman. And I'm telling you, we were very impressed from the very first time we visited their showroom. It's beautiful, for one thing. And they explained to us their commitment to affordable marble and granite and quartz. Everything is sculpted with the highest craftsmanship. Ethan does an amazing job, and everything's delivered with professional results. Every aspect of the process, from selecting the granite to the installation process, everything went beautifully. And I encourage you, if you're looking for countertops for your kitchen or bath, do reach out to Carolina Stone Craftsman. And of course, be sure to tell them that Jen Jensen sent you. They are family owned and operated, of course, locally owned. Carolina Stone Craftsman, just beyond Columbia and Chapin and beyond your expectations. Visit them, carolinastonecraftsman.com. Still just working one accident out there this morning. Hope it stays that way for you. I-77 northbound at exit 2. That would be right there at 12th Street. And looking for some heavier weather this afternoon, really more severe weather possible between about 2 and 8 this afternoon. 79 will be our high today, 77 tomorrow. And then we hit 82 on Wednesday. By Thursday and Friday, we're in the upper 80s and keep that through Saturday. So that's something to look forward to. But a little bit of foggy conditions out there this morning, just light fog. It is 64 on 107.5 The Game.
All right, well, that was one portion of it. And a reminder, we will be sending Elijah Campbell on the 107.5 The Game moped down from Birmingham over to Tampa this week to be there live for the Final Four. So we'll be catching up with him Thursday and Friday probably to get back into rhythm with the Final Four. Obviously, the Gamecocks will get set to play on Friday night and then hopefully Sunday. And they'll play the winner of TCU and Texas. You got a preference? They played both teams this year. They played both teams this year. Do we have a preference? Do we want a fourth showdown with Texas?
Sure. We handled them 2 out of the 3 times.
Right.
Not easy.
And we handled TCU, and they handled TCU. And that's putting it mildly. What they did TCU.
I forget that.
That's what I'm saying. They've played both. I mean, remember, I think they went to TCU as I pull it back up real quick.
Bring it on.
TCU, they beat 85-52 in Fort Worth back on December 8th. So either team, South Carolina has already faced once this year.
Bring it on.
Okay.
Whoever.
So it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Just close it, get some sleep, girls. Don't worry about the game. You've already got film from when you played them. But yesterday, Preston, they took on Duke second time this year. And this is part real quick. If you followed this a little bit, there's becoming this great scheduling debate in women's basketball now about, well, how should we do this? What should we do? What's going on? Dawn's never backed down from a schedule. And I think she got a little infuriated because they didn't get the top overall national seed. And I was kind of like, well, who cares? You are where you are. And I thought, again, it actually worked out. But yet it's funny to say, like, there's likely they're what is it? Southern Cal is in the other side against Connecticut. They haven't played Southern Cal this year. So there's one chance that of all the teams remaining, the 4 tonight and UCLA, there's rematches that will be taking place all the way through for South Carolina.
Right, and Southern Cal's on deck for
next year.
So that is done. Yeah, and I think in a moment of frustration, maybe Coach spoke out because she was frustrated with not getting that spot. But in retrospect, if she takes a step back, it's better this way. It's better for the fans throughout the season to have these big games to look forward to. It's better for the team because they have faced better competition, and now they have games that they can go back and look at. Scouting is easier as they get advanced in the tournament. So I think if she maybe just was a little bit frustrated by not getting what she thought they deserved.
But they come back yesterday, 54-50, a defensive scuffle. And after the game, Dawn Staley said a defensive scuffle prepares you for the Final Four. Here's what she had to say.
Well, considering I think we played the Texas or TCU, right? You know, if it's Texas, we're gonna muck it up just like we do in the, in the Southeastern Conference. If it's TCU, much the same because they can score a lot of points. I just hope that we can get our offense going a little bit. We can't seem to play a little bit more fluidly. I thought we played with a lot better pace than we did on Friday. So, I mean, the pace will help some. But, when you have two teams that really defend, it's going to look like that. So, I thought both of us accomplished what we needed to accomplish while trying to get a win.
And it was when it's your team winning, the eye of the beholder, it was a beautiful game. When you lose, you're like, oof, that was a rough game to watch. 54-50, the final. Chloe Kitts making plays down the stretch, hitting free throws. We'll hear from her in a second. But 14 points and 4 rebounds. Sanaya Fagan came through late. 12 points, 8 rebounds, kind of became dominant down in the post. But they had struggle. There was really from about the second, the third, and halfway through the fourth, they were struggling to score.
Yeah, and as I said, as I was watching the game, I just didn't like the way it felt, because it felt like Duke was getting easier buckets than we were getting. We were having to work really, really extremely hard to get the shots that we were making. And like you said, Sanaya, I think she hit like 2 step-back fadeaways. It was like, all right, that's not how we drew it up. This is nice, but that's not what you would want. And it felt like Duke was getting the things that they wanted and also making it very difficult for us. So I didn't like the way the game was going, but they eventually got out of it.
After the game, one thing that I think is all in our mind, because they are the Vegas betting odds, does this team look like a national championship team? Are they going to be ready for what's ahead of them? Dawn Staley addressed that.
Look, I mean, at this point, it's not going to look pretty. Okay, it's not. There are stretches in each game that is not going to look pretty. If you watch all the games, you know, maybe the score at the end of a UConn game is not indicative of how it looked in the first 2 quarters. So some of it's not going to look as smoothly as us coaches and players envision or how we practice. But you certainly have to get down and play the kind of game that's presented in front of you, and we'll do that. You know, if we're not scoring a whole lot of points, then we got to up our defense. If we're scoring a whole lot of points, we got to up our defense. So it is that type of year that, you know, for us, it's not any blowouts. We have to grind for every single win that we can get and manufacture.
And you mentioned it. We take it for granted. Don't take it for granted, but 5th consecutive Final Four for Dawn Staley's team. And getting back there, and I mean, it's incredible what she's been able to do.
Yeah, we're in survive and advance mode, right? You win, you move on, you figure out another way to do it. But I think the thing that makes this team very unique is that they've done it. They can do it in so many different ways. The way they won the game on Sunday was very different than the way they won the game on Friday, which is different than how they won the games early when they beat Indiana. And so the thing I think that they have going for them is that I believe they have 2 players who can get buckets. And I believe that's in Malaysia Fulwale and Tessa Johnson. If all breaks down, I think they can get a bucket. And when the game gets, as she said, her choice of words, mucked up, you need somebody that can just find a way to score. And I think that they have those where they may not have had those in the past.
Again, 5th consecutive Final Four, probably would have been 6. The year prior to the start of this run, they were 32-1 and 16-0 in conference play, and widely considered the best team in the country. That was the year that everybody was expecting them to show down against Oregon and Sabrina Ionescu. Yeah, got it though. But so you could probably make the case that it would be 6 straight years of Final Fours for Dawn Staley's team, and what a dynasty she's built. And they continue to roll on. They're still right there. 803-404-6100. How you can weigh in this morning. Up next, Preston will ask you, what type of fan are you? We'll find out. You're listening to Preston.
I had a moment.
You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It's the early game. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in on anything you hear. Jamie Bradford due up with us in about 11 minutes. We'll get his take on some baseball and also some women's basketball and maybe even a little softball as well. But let's get out to the phone lines. Hank wants to weigh in on the women's basketball team. Hank, how you doing this morning? What's on your mind?
I'm doing fine. I was in Birmingham this weekend, so I'm proud of how they did. And I think you hit it on the head. And Don hit it on the head. I think a lot of people that haven't watched a lot of other women's basketball besides South Carolina has not realized that there's probably about 12 to 13 teams that can play really, really good ball with really, really talented players. And so these games are now, in the girls' side, starting to become a lot similar to the Sweet 16 Elite 8 games in the guys' side, where oftentimes you have a team that goes down to the final couple of minutes and you got to make plays to win. And I think yesterday, just for context, South Carolina, we were flowing pretty well in the first quarter. And then when we went to our bench, they took advantage, of their experience, and they're one of the best defensive teams in the country due to this. And they kind of really took advantage of some of our younger players, where a lot of people have cried about the starting lineup all year long. But in this game and in the Indiana game, when you have a really, really good defensive team, it was a starting lineup that went in and really used their experience to salt the game out. And so when you have people coming at you like that, I think that a thing that a lot of people didn't know in context is, even though as bad as that game was offensively from a flow standpoint, South Carolina was the only team in this postseason to score over 50 points on Duke. And Duke had held every other team to under 50 points, and the only other teams that have done that have gone on to win a title. So it was just one of them rock fight games. I'm glad we gutted it out, and we can win in different ways, and looking forward to next weekend.
Appreciate the phone call, Hank. Yeah,
Appreciate that, Hank. One of the people who was on the starting lineup was Bree Hall. And as I'm reading this, with 29.8 seconds left, Gamecocks are up, and Bree Hall commits an offensive foul. She runs into the Duke player.
Yeah.
I immediately yelled out a very bad word.
Oh, no.
Very bad word.
Clemson?
It was cow excrement, maybe. How about that? Cow excrement.
Okay.
But it was just a reaction, Bill. It wasn't based on anything. All it was a reaction. I saw the replay, and I was like, yeah.
Bit of a foul.
It was a foul. It was a foul.
You're in agreement?
So my question is, as a fan, are you the fan that can admit that it was a good call against your team, or is it always a bad call against your team?
It's a good question.
It's a simple question because you see this a lot of times in pass interference, holding calls, offensive fouls. Can you admit when the refs make a good call against your team, or is it always a bad call? What do you think?
Me, personally, yeah, there are times I probably annoy the people that sit around me at football games.
You're that guy who's like, yeah, it was a good call.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, that happened. Settle down. They're like, no. Okay, my bad. You're right. We're clearly getting cheated.
Yeah, it was a good call. Bree made a bad play. It was not a great play at all because there was nowhere to go. She was going out of bounds. The girl got there. Yes, maybe her feet were in there. It was the right call. However, as a fan, I immediately my instant reaction was, oh, that's a bad call. It wasn't. So as a fan, can you admit when there's a good call against your team, or is it always a bad call? 803-404-6100.
Can you be honest? That's 803-404-6100 right now is how you can weigh in on that. Obviously, we'll get into some baseball coming up next hour with Jamie Bradford. But, yeah, that play at the very end, you're just kind of like, what are you doing? And I kind of honestly had looked down and then all of a sudden, like, just watched so I go back up and look back up, and I'm like, Bree just ran right through her. Like, yeah. And girl made a decent play and got them to a position where they had the ball. And I'll be honest, my my heart sank when the girl let the three-pointer fly.
Well, yeah, it was a tough possession. Bree was on defense. She had to. I know she was playing. Her heart was probably pounding. Like, I have to make this defensive play now.
Yeah.
Also, Bree might have stole one earlier where she had a little bit of dramatics to a play. So it all evens out. It all comes out in the wash. But yeah, my immediate reaction was bad call. And then I was like,
Had to come around to it.
Yeah.
Saw the replay.
Yeah,
Like, no. It definitely would have been called if they had done it. I guess you can call it against us. I understand. So. There you go. All right. We'll get into some baseball with Jamie Bradford to get back into some women's basketball. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in this morning. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. It is the early game.
And still working that earlier tie-up on I-77 northbound there at 12th Street. That would be exit 2. Still a little slowdown there due to an earlier accident. And going to want to be mindful of some potentially severe weather this afternoon. They're saying between maybe 2 and 8 this afternoon and evening is when we might see this bad weather coming in as far as strong storms, heavy thunderstorms, that is, heavy winds, possibly heavy rain. And then that should be hopefully clearing out tonight. 79 will be our high today, 77 tomorrow. We hit 82 on Wednesday, 87 on Thursday, 89 on Friday. It's 64 currently on 107.5 The Game.
Seven a.m. as we get you up and get you going. The final day of March. I mean, what? It was just this time. Was it just this time, Preston, about 3 months ago that we were wrapping up the bowl season for South Carolina? It's amazing how quickly things are flying by. We mentioned it. What a month March is. Preston labeling it maybe the best month of the year.
One seed.
Definite.
Overall 1 seed.
Definite 1 seed. I'm making a case maybe I called April a dangerous 3 seed, maybe even a very talented 2 seed, because starting tomorrow, we'll have Darlington this coming weekend. That'll be a lot of fun. You got Major League Baseball really getting into full effect. You got college baseball, which we're going to talk about. That might take a little bit away from it right now. We're going to talk college baseball. You got Final Four this coming weekend. We got the Masters next weekend. The RBC Heritage coming up in 2 weeks. You got the spring football games, most importantly, South Carolina spring football game. And, of course, this year you've got Easter. Not always. Easter kind of bounces back and forth to help out March and to help out April, depending on the year. But April, dangerous underdog that you're not paying attention to.
Also, I've said January 12 seed. Out of 12. 12 out of 12.
You actually went with 16.
Yeah,
you just bumped them all the way back.
I said 16, but if we're going to go 1 through 12, 12.
Joining us now to help us with that debate and maybe some other stuff, Jamie Bradford, come on in. Where would you rate? Where do you rate the month of March and the month of April on your sporting calendar list?
Oh, very high. Very, very high. Yeah, probably, well, let's see here. So, a lot of people want to throw September in as at the top 2, and that's because of the NFL and college football. October is such a great month because of both and the Major League Baseball playoffs, in my opinion. And then, of course, November you start cranking up college hoops, but college hoops really isn't paid attention to until like January, but you get some good stuff in December too. It's probably, that's a hard one. I mean, they're both top 3 seeds. I just don't know if who's the 2, who's the 1, 2, 3. I don't know. It's too early in the morning for that crap. You got to prep me on these things.
No, we like to bring it in hot, see what you got. Yep, that's I still go November. November is my top over. I'm a little bit different than y'all. I get into basketball early on. I love the combination of NBA, college basketball, NFL, college. Then you throw me Thanksgiving, the number 1 hands down top seed for holidays. I go November, but I think Preston, and now I'm kind of making a case for myself that March or April might be right behind November. I might be going down that path. I didn't think about it until Preston brought it up last month, but here we are. And I'll tell you what, Jamie, we'll start with the positive because we're going to get to the baseball, but we'll start with the positive. Yesterday, the women's team, 5th straight, and we may as well just call it 6th. I know they didn't get to play during the COVID year, but it is their 5th appearance in the Final Four. What Dawn Staley's build is incredible, but I kind of laughed because it did feel like after they got beat by Connecticut, we went like, this is just an off year for them. We'll see what they do, but it's an off year.
Yeah, well, it's not. It's just like any other year, Yeah, I mean, look, man. Obviously, as y'all point out, we put pretty much anybody that has a little bit of sense points out. I mean, they are the standard in women's basketball. And when you are the standard, you're going to get every single thing that every single team that you play has. Everything. You're going to get they're going to throw every single thing they've got at you. And South Carolina gets that every time they step on the floor. Sometimes it affects them in ways that it didn't affect them in the previous game. Sometimes they maybe won't perform as well, or sometimes they'll perform even better. You just really never know, but you know that you're going to get everybody's best shot. But yesterday wasn't a very offensive day at all for the Gamecocks. I mean, hat tip to Duke, because defensively I thought they were phenomenal, but Carolina was better. They just find ways to win, and they just have this attitude that you're not going to beat me. I mean, I know they've lost 3 whopping times this year, but they just find ways to win, and that's what happens when you're the standard. And here we go again. They're going to go to Tampa, and I know there's going to be thousands of Carolina fans down there. And I think what makes this really, really unique is the fact that we might see every team that beats South Carolina in Tampa this year. And I think that's great for the sport. And I actually think that's great for the Gamecocks. I think that's a motivational redemption tour type deal for them to be able to go knock off a couple of these programs that took them down during the regular season.
Yeah, Preston and I kind of joked about it a little bit from the standpoint of, barring Southern Cal pulling off the upset. I don't know what the point spread is. I'll have to look at it. But barring Southern Cal pulling off the upset tonight, every game remaining left for South Carolina will be a rematch. And you even go back to yesterday, it was a rematch against Duke. And that's Dawn Staley's scheduling preseason non-conference, getting her team ready for these kind of games where yesterday they trailed late. Most teams, I'd say 95% of teams out there probably would have panicked. I've always said if you can get like an elite team into the final 5 minutes, final 4 or 5 minutes where they know this could be their last game, the pressure was on South Carolina yesterday. It wasn't on Duke. The pressure was all on South Carolina. You're the giant. You're the bully. You're the team that's supposed to win. You're the team that everybody loves to hate because of how good you are. Your repeat is on the line. That pressure is something that Duke didn't have yesterday. South Carolina has dealt with it through the years, and because of the non-conference play, they're the team that was able to handle the pressure, make the plays, and win the ball game.
Absolutely. And look, number one, they recruit the best basketball players in the country, right? I mean, when you look at talent, there isn't a team that's as talented as South Carolina. It's really not even actually that close, to be honest. And so they're incredibly talented. And then they're always going to be incredibly well prepared. Dawn makes sure that the non-conference schedule, although maybe a week or two ago she kind of alluded to the fact, well, I don't know, maybe we won't do that. But I doubt that'll be the case. But she makes sure that the non-conference schedule is incredibly challenging. She'll play anywhere. They play road games, they play neutral site games, they play home games. They do whatever it takes to make sure that they're as prepared as possible for this exact scenario right here that you're laying out. When you get late into the tournament, these are the teams that you're going to see, and you either A, will want to have already seen them, or B, have played teams that are similar to them, and you're prepared for the moment and for the environment. So I mean, look, it's how UConn used to do it too. Of course, I think the sport is deeper than when UConn was doing what they were doing under Gino. Like, I think there's probably 7 or 8 what you would consider elite teams right now. Back then, there was maybe only a handful, and same thing with Tennessee. But this team is just as well prepared as any team out there, and they're as talented as everybody out there. And when you have that, as long as you've done a good enough job to make sure that they play together, which Dawn does that every year before the season. That thing she does every year wherever they go and take away their phones and all the stuff that they do, it works. And obviously, here we are in the 5th straight Final Four and 7th in the last 10 years. It's just a phenomenal run.
Speaking of that, because we've heard of this, take away their phones. What was it, Thursday or last week, whatever, Plies coming out and was like pleading for them to stop making TikToks. And Dawn's like, Yeah, they're not going to listen to you, man. You ain't that important.
Sorry,
Like,
dude.
Yeah, she's like, we love you, but yeah, it's not gonna happen. I've tried.
what is it? She said they'll see it, they'll think about it for a minute, and then they'll keep scrolling and go right past you. They're making their TikToks. That's what they do. So we'll continue talking about this, but obviously a great day for Dawn Staley, a great day for the University of South Carolina, and they go back. The repeat is still available. We'll see if they're able to pull that off. 803-404-6100 will flip the script. We got to get Jamie Bradford's opinion here on South Carolina baseball. I'm asking Jamie the big picture questions here. Where is this program going? What is the destination this year? It's the year's not over, but we got to kind of get some big picture questions going there with Jamie when we come back. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, Bill Gunner, and joined as always on a Monday morning by Jamie Bradford. It is the early game.
It's Jen for Carolina Stone Craftsman, just outside Columbia in Chapin. And let me tell you, we did a renovation, replaced a couple cabinets, needed a countertop. Oh my gosh, they were fantastic. We toured their showroom. It is absolutely beautiful. They have an outdoor showroom that they're getting finished that is absolutely stunning. And I can't wait to tell you more about that, of all the hardscape stuff that they can do for your home or your outdoor. But when we went through the process of getting this countertop, everything was great. From visiting the showroom, making our selection, the installation process, everything went beautifully. I encourage you to reach out to Carolina Stone Craftsman if you need some countertops for your kitchen or bath. And of course, be sure to tell them Jen Jensen sent you. They're locally owned, they're family owned and operated. Carolina Stone Craftsman, just beyond Columbia in Chapin and beyond your expectations. Visit them online at carolinastonecraftsman.com. And taking a peek at those traffic conditions this morning, earlier accidents have been cleared, so that is very good news. And hope you continue to have a good commute this Monday morning. We are going to see some issues potentially with your commute heading home. Strong storms possible this afternoon starting around 2 o'clock. They're expected to stick around to maybe 8 or so this evening. Potentially heavy rains, heavy winds. So just be mindful and be sure to be listening to the radio for more information. 79 will be the high. 77 tomorrow. 82 on Wednesday. Upper 80s for the remainder of the week. It's a little bit overcast right now. 64 on 107.5 The Game.
I think it's a little of both. I mean, the pitching we've been facing is extraordinary. These guys probably leading the country in pitching. Their team ERA was 2 coming in, and we scored 2 today. But the last 2 days, we did better. We hit in the clutch. Last night, or yesterday afternoon, and the night before, we had some clutch hits. We had 2 clutch hits today. Gavin Braylon played his heart out both days, Whitey came through with a big hit. And later on, when we had another opportunity, he didn't. You tell me what's the difference between one at bat or the other, I mean, personally, I think Whitey was a little too selective. He threw him a couple off-speed pitches, and he took strikes. It goes back to the age-old question, everybody, when guys swing for early in the count and make outs, everybody criticizes you for not working the count. When they work the count and the guy strikes out, then they say he wasn't aggressive enough. So the only thing that works is whatever works. You know what I mean? And personally, I think I would have liked what I teach is that Woyd shouldn't have been looking for the perfect pitch there. When you're the 3-hole hitter of an SEC team, you got the bases loaded, nobody out. They're not just going to lay one right down the middle for you. So you've got to adapt. And even if he just takes an off-speed pitch for a fly ball to left field, he gets us a run in. And, he strikes out. Kennedy hits into a double play, and we go back with nothing at it after working hard to get the bases loaded, nobody out. It's the difference between winning and losing. It's the clutch hitting. I mean, I've been coaching for 40 years. Nothing's changed. We can do all the metrics we want. The teams that rise up and come through in the clutch situations generally are the teams that win. Today we didn't. We did twice, but not enough.
The voice of Paul Mainieri there discussing not only the weekend, but the Sunday game as we roll along here on the early game, 7:18. Joined as always on a Monday morning by Jamie Bradford. And Jamie, Preston and I were talking about this in the previous hour. You come off the sweep, and I think this team is, I'm going to speak for myself, not for Jamie or Preston or Jen or anybody here at 107.5 The Game. This team is who they are, and they're not a bad team. They've put themselves in positions to win games. They were in position to win, I think, all 3 of the Clemson games. They didn't get it done. They were in position to win a game on Sunday against Oklahoma. They didn't get it done. They were in position to win a game against North Carolina. They didn't get it done. They were in position Saturday to win a game against Tennessee. Once again, didn't get it done. Jamie, my point on this is they're not a clutch team. They don't make the pitch. They don't get the hit. They don't do that thing that South Carolina baseball was really known for under Ray Tanner. And, that's just my assessment. Your assessment when I bring up all those games where South Carolina's had a chance to win, but simply they don't make the play against other really good teams.
Yeah. I mean, that's obvious. Obviously, they've had a couple of games this year that could have made everything look a whole lot different right now. I mean, even 2 or 3 ball games. You take the Saturday game against the Vols and the Sunday game against Oklahoma, the North Carolina game, and all of a sudden you're, instead of sitting here at 17-12, you're sitting here at 20-9. You've got a series win under your belt in the league, and you've got a win over the number 1 team in the country. and you've got, you're still rolling right along in the midweeks because they hadn't lost a midweek until that defeat against North Carolina, and the conversation is a little bit different. But late game execution has been a major issue. I gave a stat on Friday about the 48 runs that they had allowed in the Arkansas series and the North Carolina game combined, which is terrible. But 21 of those 48 came in the final 3 innings of the ball game, and that's atrocious. Is really what it comes down to. Offensively, this team isn't gonna run out and score, I don't think, 9 or 10 runs a game. So you have to pitch. Now they can be an offense that can be sufficient. I mean, they're hitting 305 in league play. I don't know if anybody realizes that or not. That's tremendous. I mean, that's really, really good. And you think about the pitching staffs that they've seen. I mean, these are 3 of the top pitching staffs in college baseball in Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Tennessee, and they're hitting 305 against them. So that's really tremendous. But Coach Maneri is spot on in the fact that there's been a couple of moments where you have to have it here. It's got to be here. Even yesterday they were down 5-1. The bases loaded and nobody out, and they struck out and grounded into a double play. Like, that can't happen. It just can't happen. And these guys know that. So they're just. I mean, I guess if there's anything that you would call good news is that stretch is over. And the SEC, no matter who you play, still provides ample opportunity to continue to build, your resume, essentially. And for those that are wondering what I'm talking about, well, of course I'm talking about the postseason because that is the standard here. Like, all hope is not lost when it comes to playing in the postseason. That's crazy. That's ludicrous. I mean, Ole Miss just a couple of years ago at this point in time was way under 500, and they weren't even in contention, and they won the World Series. Now, I'm not saying that this team can win the World Series. That's not what I'm getting at. But they won't quit. I mean, Paul Maneri and Monty Lee and those guys, they will not let them quit. And I don't think they have a group that wants to quit. But, they do have to find themselves in big key moments. And, maybe tomorrow night against Presbyterian, that's a chance to kind of take a breather, hopefully, and put the gas pedal down and go in there and get a nice, comfortable win and start feeling better about yourself.
Preston, how do you assess that when we talk? I feel like we're having a very identical conversation that we had about late January with the basketball team, finding a way to win down the stretch, and whether it's an inherent quality or something that's coached in.
Ooh, I want to get back to that because I want to go back to something that Jamie said.
Okay.
Now that they're through this stretch, everybody knew the stretch was going to be difficult. I guess my question is, and for them to answer is, and maybe PC is the answer, the old slump buster. Do they have the morale to get themselves back up and ready to compete for the rest of the season, Jamie?
Yeah, I think that's. Hey, look, man, that's obviously a very fair question, but I've been around these guys and this staff enough to not question that. That's just me personally. I mean, if fans are going to question that, that's fair. There's nothing that says that you shouldn't question that or that you can't. I mean, that's a very fair question and assessment for, what's going on. But we haven't even gotten to April yet. And this group has been around a long, long time. I'm talking about the staff and even some of the players on this team. I mean, and here's the other thing, too, that I love to add in. They have really good young talent, and you can't put it all on their backs. That's not fair to them, but the more that they play, the better that they become. And so what you hope is the KJ Scobies and the Bo Hollands, who had a tremendous weekend of the world, and the Gavin Braylons who are going to be in the lineup, and then some of these young arms and stuff, the more that they play, the more that the game slows down for them. And when that happens, that then gives you more people who are capable of performing in those key moments. I mean, right now, you look at maybe just a handful of guys at most that you would really trust being up there. I mean, but I say that, and Ethan Petrie is tremendous of a player. I mean, the kid's an All-American. I mean, he's going. Kids can play in the big leagues one day. You know, I feel like he puts a lot of pressure on himself to perform in key situations, and I don't know if he does it because maybe he doesn't trust others to perform, or he just wants it so bad, or maybe it's a combination of both. I'm not sure what it is, but he wants to win so bad, and he wants to be successful so much that I think he just steps in the box and just tries to make it happen instead of just trusting his God-given ability to do it. And so, you know, there are things that are there. I'm less concerned right now about the lineup. I think that the lineup can piece things together and get it figured out, as choppy as it's been. I am much more concerned about the pitching staff and the bullpen. And they've got a lot of injuries collectively, offense, defense, staff, whatever. And to begin the year, it looked like they kind of had an idea of what they wanted to look like in the bullpen, and that has really deteriorated. And I don't know who's going to grab the ball and step up and say, this is where I'm going to come in and stop the bleeding when I get the opportunity. I don't know who that is. I feel like it's fair to ask that question, but I sure hope that we get to see whoever it is in the next couple of days.
Yeah, I will say this, too. Again, look, I'm not trying to call this a good baseball team, but there is certainly – they've been in position to win games. They haven't gotten it done. But you bring up the injuries, and when you have a guy that's doing his work, his pregame work out in the bullpen and gets donked on the head and goes down and has a concussion and then has an oblique injury because of getting donked on the head, that's one of those years you just throw your hands up and all you can do is battle. You talk about the future of this team. We're going to get into it tomorrow because they're labeling Presbyterian Game 7. Preston and I are going to really get into that tomorrow. But, yeah, you do go into a stretch now where you've got to win several of these games to kind of put yourself back in any kind of contention for postseason play, right?
Yeah, and the crazy thing is the next two series are on the road. But they're against teams that are in a very similar spot to South Carolina. Like, Mississippi State, I mean, Texas A&M was the number one team in the country coming into the season. I mean, Mississippi State, and, I know Limo, those guys, like, they just haven't been able to figure it out. And, I mean, it's been a wild sequence of events, and I really wish one of those series was at home. But, you hope that they haven't figured it out yet, and you're able to snake one or two of these. Maybe you can win both of them. Who knows? But, my point is those are teams that are kind of in a similar situation to South Carolina. Kind of questioning a few things, trying to figure out who they are and the whole 9 yards, and maybe it's an opportunity for them to take advantage of that.
803-404-6100, how you can weigh in this morning. We'll come back. We'll get into a little bit of some other stuff here, some little spring practice, get back into baseball and softball a little bit.
Hey, yeah, I was about to say, Wait a second here.
We got that on. We got that on the docket. We're not running away from that. They need all the love they can get. They're going to be deep inside the top 10 after yesterday's doubleheader sweep. So we'll get into that a little bit. 803-404-6100. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, Bill Gunner, and Jamie Bradford. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. All right, you heard Jen say it. Here we go into this month here. We might have some storms coming up, some heavy rain, some high winds. Is your roof ready to handle that? If not, it's time for you to call Mid-State Roofing. With nearly 30 years of being the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry, Mid-State Roofing is ready to help you. They design and install bonded systems with a protective guarantee that'll keep your operation dry and running long into the future. And with some of these heavy rains, strong winds coming up, get those weird spring storms here during the month of April, you want to make sure that roof is ready to handle it. Whether it's your home or your business, Mid-State Roofing is there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, ready to take your phone call and help you with a maintenance contract. So give them a phone call, 803-356-1919. Again, it's 803-356-1919. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
Well, we don't appear to be Mondaying out on the highways right now, so that's a pretty welcome information there. No accidents to report. And as far as forecast, 79 will be the high today, but we are looking for the potential for strong storms this afternoon and this evening. Potentially heavy weather coming into the area around 2, maybe this afternoon. Could be out of here by 8 or 9 tonight. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, 77, 82 on Wednesday, upper 80s for Thursday and Friday. Right now, it is currently 64 on 107.5 The Game.
Rolling along here on your Monday morning, March the 31st, as we get you up and get you going here. Final day of March. Hope you're doing well and feeling up to the challenge of a whole nother week and a whole nother month. And mentally remind yourself, you amateurs, tomorrow is April Fool's Day. Don't want you to forget about that and wake up and your significant other or your kids, those pesky kids that'll all of a sudden be like, Mom, Dad, turns out no school today. No school. And you're like, oh, I didn't know that. And then they hit you with the old April Fool's Day and make you feel sad.
Yeah, I might have a rant on April Fool's Day.
803-404-6100. Jamie mentioned it going to break. Yeah, look, women's basketball going to the Final Four. Not a great weekend for baseball. But how about Ashley Chastain Woodard's team going down to Baton Rouge? They got run ruled on Friday night, but they bounced back yesterday due to inclement weather. They played a doubleheader yesterday, and they pull off the victory 5-3 and 4-1 yesterday afternoon. They are now 27-7, 4-5 in SEC play. Going into the weekend, they were ranked right around one poll had them at 10, one poll had them at 11. They'll move into the top 25 coming up this week, coming up today, I guess. And Jamie, I watched some of that. The second game yesterday, it was on the SEC network. It was kind of the replacement game for the South Carolina Tennessee baseball game. Those girls are just fun to watch. They are entertaining, and there's an excitement level that's really cool.
Yeah, I know, man. We said the same thing last week. There's one word that describes this team, and it's fun. And that just takes after Ashley. I mean, it's just who she is. She's got a quiet confidence about her, and she can balance, being a coach and being a motivator and being somebody who can keep things loose at the same time. And she's got a really good team. I mean, let's call it like it is. I mean, they're really, really talented. And the reality of it is right now, and it's a long ways to go before this conversation really should grow any legs, but the truth is South Carolina is positioning themselves for a top 8 national seed if things continue to trend this way. I mean, they got the second most quad 1 wins in the country. They're number 3 in the RPI. They're number 2 in the non-conference RPI. They're 6-4 on the road. Like all the additional metrics that matter. And keep in mind, 3 of those 4 road losses are at Oklahoma. So they got a ways to go. But this is a week. If you haven't had a chance to see them yet, here's your chance. I mean, you got 4 opportunities: Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, over at Beckham Field. Wofford comes to town, and then 21st ranked Ole Miss will be in town this weekend. So it's another huge opportunity to get another high quality series win. And we'll see where things go from there. But this is the story nationally in college softball. If whoever follows college softball, you can't have a conversation about college softball without having a conversation about South Carolina. They're the number 1 story in the country right now.
Well, this is a college athletics story because you bring in a new coach who brings in new coaching staff. She brings players with her from her previous program, not only player but very good players. Go through the transfer portal, you bring in a bunch of players, you turn the roster over really quickly. This is, I will stop short of saying a blueprint, but this is a story of modern college athletics, right?
Well, I think, you know what, it's a really a pretty brilliant observation on your behalf right there, because it's not always easy, and that's what everybody expects now, right? Like, that's when you make a change, everybody just expects the coach to dip into the portal and utilize their NIL funds or whatever, and within one calendar year, the whole thing's turned around and they're rocking and rolling. Right. Now, softball, baseball, football, basketball, they all have different challenges, and we all know that. So, these are not apples to apples conversations to be had. But if you're talking about it just on its face, on the surface of the fact that is the name of the game now, yes, like, you're 100% right. I mean, there's a lot of people who are probably going to look at this and go, how did she do that? And what can we draw from that to help us do the same thing wherever we are?
803-404-6100. We'll continue to monitor them. You mentioned them coming up. Let's go back to something Preston brought up earlier. Preston, you want to ask Jamie a question here?
All right, Jamie. So the question is, what type of fan are you? Because at the end of the game, when Bree Hall allegedly committed that offensive foul, my first immediate call was bull crap. I guess I'll say that's not the exact words I used, but I said bull crap. And then I watched the replay, and I was like, maybe. And so my question is, Jamie, are you it's always a bad call against us, or are you a fan that can say that you like Bill is, that annoys all the other fans and says, well, actually, that was a good call?
God, I hate the size of Bill, but I'll do it.
Yeah, come on into
yeah, man. Hey, is it or is it not? I'm not one of those people that just, because it was against my group or whatever, that I'm against it. What is the call correct or not? That's what I'm about.
And you know what, Jamie? I'd like to think that was me also, but immediately I said bull crap, and then I saw the replay. I was like, oh yeah, well, yeah, actually, I guess. But my first thought was bad call. It wasn't. Bad.
Yeah, and sometimes you have to be able to slow your mind down to get over the initial reaction. You know what I mean? Like, the fan jumps out, and you're like, that was terrible.
Right.
And then you're like, oh man, I guess it was okay. It was a good call. You say it under your breath type deal. It's kind of like arguing, like when I was coaching baseball. Sometimes you just go out to argue even though you know that you're wrong, but you do it for a couple of reasons, and you walk away and you're like, man, I was dead wrong on that, but it's all good, So, yeah, you got to clear the hurdle, the one mental hurdle.
Yeah, it's just the fan jumped out at me quicker than I could.
Quicker than you anticipated.
It's like the lizard brain. It just jumped out before I could even realize what was happening.
You were in the game. You were invested in the game. You were invested more than you realized. And the next thing you know, you're yelling about a bad call. Then you see it back and you're like, yeah, it probably wasn't as bad as I initially thought. Bad angle. I got a bad angle on it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Also, I realized because I guess when I watch basketball or when I watch baseball, I'm in total fan mode. When I watch football, I'm a little bit more analyst mode, so I maybe could slow down a little bit in that. But when I'm watching basketball, I don't really know halfway what's going on anyway. So I'm just in total fan mode.
Totally understand.
Analysis is way down the list when I'm watching basketball.
Allowed to happen.
Yeah.
Allowed to happen. 803-404-6100, how you can weigh in. We'll come back. We'll get Jamie's thoughts on the Final Four and some South Carolina men's basketball news as well. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for John Ecton and the Ecton Law Firm. Let me tell you, at the Ecton Law Firm, they understand that taxes are important, that getting a mean, nasty notice from the IRS can mean something severe for you or your business. So you need to give them a call because they've helped thousands of families just like yours across this great state navigate the IRS maze. So today is the day. Don't wait another day. Call and get a free consultation. If you've received one of these notices, time is of the essence. Give them a phone call, 803-771-9800. Again, that's 803-771-9800. Again, if the IRS is after you or your business, you need to call John Ecton. They've dealt with the IRS. They know how to get it handled. They know how to resolve these issues, but they can't do it if you don't call. So call today, 803-771-9800. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. the good old bagpipes mean, Preston
Couldn't find
Thorne?
anything that was, had like a pulse to it. No, it had to be like funeral bagpipes, but okay, we're rolling with it.
All right, funeral bagpipes. But yeah, we got bagpipe music. That means it is your opportunity now. We'll take caller number 3. Caller number 3 for a family 4-pack of tickets to Tartan Day South. That's right. Caller number 3, 803-404-6100. We are giving away a family 4-pack of tickets to Tartan Day South coming up this coming weekend.
It's a super fun event. That's why the music doesn't give it
do it
justice,
justice.
because there's so many great activities and food and showcases, strength activities. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
it's so much fun.
I definitely feel like I should have stood and saluted something.
Yeah.
I should just stood and
Like I watched a Boston Mafia movie.
I
or
should have
something.
just stood and saluted somebody somewhere.
Yeah, so don't let the music fool you. This is really, look it up online. It's a fantastic event and for the entire family. So definitely it's worth, you definitely want to win tickets for it, but definitely, for sure you want to go.
Definitely. We'll take caller number 3.
Hey, definitely 12 times here.
That's all right. That's all right. Jamie Bradford, you familiar with Tartan Day South? Does any of this ring a bell with you?
Well, we promoted on our show it better. I picture you
Okay,
out there in a kilt, tossing the ham or with the what's it called? The stone put, where you shove it up against your cheek and then throw it across the field.
Oh, yeah.
That's you in a kilt.
Okay, me in a kilt. There's, oh boy, if you were,
I've got Preston
if you were
down
not
for the
already, if you were
paper
waking up feeling a little ill already this morning, you feel extra sick now. But because I don't even feel good about thinking about me in a kilt. That's not a.
I don't know. What do y'all? Let me ask Jen and Preston on this. Do you think he's the stone the stone putt, or is he more into the sheepdog herding?
Sheepdog herding sounds more fun. So maybe he can work on. Maybe he can use some of his lateral movement that he knows from basketball to work on the sheepdog herding.
Bill's like me though. We can't get into the caber toss. We're not tall enough to hold on to the log.
No. And I'm trying to look up some of the activities for Saturday to know what exactly some of the things that you're talking about are here. Yeah, I'm not. The caber toss is out. Hammer throw probably out. Stone put maybe in. Maybe can handle that. Weight for height. I'm gonna have to read on this here. 2 separate events. Okay, and the chef toss, a sheaf toss, a bundle of straw weighing 20 pounds for the men and 10 for the women, wrapped in a burlap bag, is tossed vertically with a pitchfork over a raised bar. Okay, I could maybe, not do it successfully, but I could maybe get into that. Traditional dancing, I could be more of. I think is where I would go with that. So,
whatever you can do with a bourbon in your hand, right?
That's right. There you go. That's the way to keep it going. Let's not let you out here. We lost control of that segment. Your thoughts? Final 4, all number 1 seeds. I'm loving it, but I'm not really thrilled about conference on conference violence with Florida and Auburn on Saturday.
Yeah. I thought this had a chance. I did have Michigan State in Tennessee in the Final 4, but I thought if there was going to be a year where it could be 4 1s, this would probably be it. And here we are. So not shocking. And, I think overall the tournament's been okay. I don't think it's going to be one of the more memorable ones that I'll at least go back and look at and say, man, that was just special all the way through. But maybe the Final 4 ends up being like that because all these teams are very elite. And if you ask me who I thought who do I think is going to win it, I don't know. Because I know that all 4 of these teams, if they play their best basketball, they're virtually unbeatable. And I thought the same thing about Alabama. And Duke held them to like half the points that they had the day before. So I don't know. I picked Florida to win the whole thing, so I'm going to stay with them. But man, the way that Auburn looked yesterday and the way that Duke looked against Alabama, Houston, I think, has been incredibly undersold. They're really good. So I don't know. But I do have a feeling this Final 4 is just going to be outstanding.
Yeah, I'm interested. The Duke-Houston game is 2 contrasting styles. I didn't realize just how I'm used to some Houston teams that wanted to get up and down the floor, score points, shoot threes. This Houston team wants to keep you to about 60. Duke wants to get up and down the floor. I kind of like Duke in that game. They're just a little bit too dynamic. Florida-Auburn, I just didn't see this coming with Florida. I mean, Todd Golden, we talked about it last week. Jamie, we weren't sure he'd still be employed at this point in time, the way the season started for him. And here he is. He's got his team in it. I'm with you. If I had to pick it, I think it's going to be a Florida-Duke matchup. I guess the status of Broome is going to be very important to keep an eye on throughout the week. I know he came back yesterday, hit a 3, but once that adrenaline, Preston, wears off, he might be feeling a little bit of pain.
Yeah, that can definitely happen because once you get through the game, you get through the tournament, you feel like, oh, okay, I'm good now, and then the pain sets in. Let me say this: modern medicine will find a way.
Modern medicine, okay, all right, little Jurassic Park there. Jamie, always appreciate it, buddy. Glad to have you on this morning. Look forward to catching up next week.
No doubt, and congratulations to Equestrian for upsetting everyone and winning the SEC championship. That was awesome.
That is on our Gamecock Whip Around coming up next. We'll get into that. Some softball, men's and women's tennis, beach volleyball. A lot happened. Jamie, always take care. We'll catch up next week.
See you, boys.
Appreciate it.
I-26 eastbound just before Sunset Boulevard, we have a report of an accident there. Aside from that, we don't really have any other reports of major incidences, so that's really good news. 79 will be our high today, but those strong storms expected after 2 o'clock this afternoon. Heavy rain, heavy winds, potential for tornadoes. So just be mindful and keep your radios on. 77 tomorrow, 82 on Wednesday, and upper 80s for the remainder of the week. And actually into Saturday, we should still see a high of about 89. So spring-like temperatures definitely coming in a little bit. Currently, though, we've had some fog and a little off and on mist. 64 currently on the early game.
We're rolling into hour number 3 here. Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen, Bill Gunner, as we get you up and get you going on your Monday morning. March the 31st. So the final day of March is upon us. We will turn the calendar to April 1st, or some people know it as April Fool's Day, or as Jen likes to call it, the Day of Amateurs tomorrow. If you are a prankster, tomorrow is your vacation day. You allow all the amateurs to step in, and as Jen has said, don't worry about her tomorrow. She is, for one day of the year, she is off the clock. Off the clock, yeah. Preston, you with
that? I never thought about it that way. It's kind of like New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
I get it. That's the amateur day.
It's like New Year's Eve. Valentine's is for the amateurs. April Fool's Day is for the amateurs for Jen.
If you're committed, you don't need a special day. If you're committed to your loved one, you don't need Valentine's Day. You're romancing them all year long. If you're a prankster, you're doing it all year long.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
So,
I've never thought about it that way.
So we are safe tomorrow morning from 6 to 9 a.m. here, and so we are in a safe place, a safe
Feel good about
place.
yourselves tomorrow.
Yeah, head will not be on a swivel quite as much tomorrow morning, but we'll get you up and get you going throughout the week, get you set. Reminder, coming up on Friday, we will be down in Darlington. The Schroeder's Towing Roadshow rolls on, and we and Tyler Head, the Extra Point, will be live from Darlington. Get down there and see our good buddy Josh Harris. What a race yesterday. What a race. And I did the numbers last night. It's bearing out. Denny Hamlin gets the job done. Gets pushed by his teammate, Bubba Wallace. And you know what? This is why I love Denny Hamlin. This is why I love him. He used his teammate, went going past my guy, Christopher Bell, and now Preston, Reggie and I are tied with 26 points apiece, followed by Josh at 22. Jen, I've got you at 21, and Preston
at 18, a solid 18.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, solid 18.
Again, one of the questions we like to ask on the early game is, when do you know? I feel like this season's not going well. It just does not.
It's
I feel like this
it's
is
so early.
I feel like this is who I am. I don't know. I don't know, Bill.
There's a stretch, and probably if you, I feel like in early June you may know, but you can't really be eliminated. You can't win or lose until about July.
The natives are getting restless.
And again, crazy things happen because last week Blaney ran and led over 100 some odd laps. He was the car to beat, and an engine blows. That's not a bad pick. That's just bad luck. And that's how this entire NASCAR business is. That's what it's all about.
So, yeah, it was unfortunately rough day for you, but that's okay. You got plenty of time to listen.
You did better than Josh yesterday.
Yeah, you cut the gap on Josh by a point. Nice job.
Don't feel good.
But yeah, Denny Hamlin wins. Fun race last night. And we'll do that on Friday. We'll move that segment to Friday this week since we'll be down in Darlington. 803-404-6100. Let's get into a little bit of our Gamecock Whip Around, sponsored by Mid-State Roofing. A lot going on this weekend. And let's lead with another championship for the Gamecocks. That's right. You heard Jamie Bradford mention it. Gamecock Equestrian wins their third conference title, their first since 2014 under their new head coach. They knocked off number 1 seed Auburn and number 3 seed Texas A&M along the way. And congratulations to the ladies, the coaches, the horses, to all involved on another SEC championship, Preston Thorne.
Do the horses get like extra carrots or something for winning the championships? Do they? What's like the incentive for them? Little extra sugar
Warmer
cubes?
blankets? I don't know. That's a good point.
I need to know, how did the horse, when you were the winning horse, what's the victory meal for a winning horse? I need to know this.
I also would just like, do the horses know they've won? Like, do they get a little party thrown from them again? It is labeled as the ultimate Cinderella story. They took down the number one team in the country, Auburn, en route to the SEC championship after defeating the 3 seed Texas A&M on Saturday. It marked the program's third conference title, the first since 2014. It was actually to the very day that they won their first conference title. It is the first SEC championship for new head coach Carol Gwynn. Congratulations to them as the SEC champs in equestrian is what South Carolina won. Men's tennis went on the road. They lost to number 4 Texas in the country. Men's tennis, number 24 in the country. They lost 4-0 in that thing. They'll be back home Thursday to take on Tennessee. Women's tennis, they knocked off Alabama this weekend, 4-1 on the road. So the women's tennis team rolling along. Bad weekend for beach volleyball. They went out to Arizona this past week and went 0-5 in the tournament that they were participating in out in Arizona. They lost matches to UTEP, Grand Canyon, Washington, and Arizona State this weekend. So at 0-4, I said 0-5. 0-4, they are now 8-9 on the season. And then as we've been talking about this morning, South Carolina women's basketball, 5th consecutive Final Four appearance. They will get the winner of tonight's game against TCU and Texas. Game time yet to be decided in Tampa on Friday night, Preston. Also this past weekend, we had baseball taking place. South Carolina gets swept 3-0 by Tennessee. Tennessee with a lot of home runs. Gamecock pitching kind of letting them down. Some opportunities for clutch hits in the ball games against Tennessee. South Carolina could not come through. They will get set. We'll talk more about this tomorrow. They'll get set for Presbyterian tomorrow night, a game that they understand. It appears they understand the importance of. Maybe they've taken a cue from us here at the early game, and we'll tell you more about that tomorrow. And then also this coming weekend, South Carolina gets set to hit the road for a trip to Starkville to take on Mississippi State. Gamecocks, by the way, now sit at 17-12. 1-8 in conference. And we wrap up our Gamecock Whip Around, sponsored by Mid-State Roofing, with the more good news of the weekend. Ashley Chastain Woodard and Gamecock softball, they win a doubleheader yesterday after some inclement weather forced the Saturday game to be moved to Sunday. Ashley Chastain Woodard's team takes down number 3 LSU 5-3 yesterday and 4-1 in the doubleheader. They take the series 2-1, and that should propel them deeper into the top 10. Jamie Bradford saying right now they're on pace to potentially be a top 8 seed in the country, which would mean they would host all the way through the College World Series should they get that far.
Really cool story. That's exactly what you want when you make a change within the program. Everything is pointing upwards for them, and they should be included in all the conference. Remember the talk was, I don't know, the SEC. Well, this is how you compete in the SEC, and this is what it means, because now teams are nervous about playing them as opposed to them being nervous about playing other teams.
And as Jamie Bradford mentioned, the Gamecock softball team, get out and support them. They are a lot of fun to watch. They play with an energy. As you mentioned, this is a really cool story kind of developing. 27-7 on the season, 4-5 in conference play. But again, 3 of those losses are to number 1 Oklahoma. And coming up this week, they'll have Wofford on Wednesday night. That game will be at 6 o'clock over at Beckham Field. You can go and check that out. And then this coming weekend, the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th, They will host Mississippi coming to town. Mississippi ranked as well. We'll know more about their ranking status later on today. So there is your Gamecock Whip Around, sponsored by Mid-State Roofing. If you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek. 803-356-1919. We come back. Little thorns, buds, and roses. You got plenty to be happy about, to celebrate, and to honor. How about that?
It was a lot going on this weekend.
We will get to all that when we come back. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for Love Chevrolet, I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park, where the springtacular deals, they aren't stopping here today. They will roll on into the month of April, but you still need to get out there and check out those 14 acres of brand new Chevys, because the folks at Love Chevrolet, that's what they pride themselves on, giving you the largest selection of anywhere here in the Midlands and offering exclusive deals on some of those great vehicles that you have been looking to purchase. So get out to Love Chevrolet today. I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. Check out that incredible sales staff, the customer service there, absolutely second to none. Check out that $1,000 low price guarantee, which means you can shop other dealerships, take their deal back to the folks at Love Chevrolet, and they will top it or write you a check for $1,000. Hasn't happened yet. Won't happen anytime soon. So get out to Love Chevrolet today, and together, let's drive.
I-26 eastbound before exit 110. That would be Sunset Boulevard. We do have an accident reported there. Outside of that, things traveling fairly well this morning. Now, we are expecting some thunderstorms and some heavier rains, heavier winds, potential for some more severe thunderstorms coming in today, sometime after 2 o'clock. And that should continue through later this evening. 79 for the high today, 77 tomorrow when that's all cleared out. 82 on Wednesday, upper 80s, really Thursday through about Saturday. So certainly welcoming those spring temperatures. But right now, sitting kind of steady at 64 on the early game.
$8:15 on your Monday morning, getting you up, getting you ready. Unless you're already at work and already ready and you're fully invested in your Monday morning workday, but hope you're doing well. I want to remind you, we got a lot going on this week. But as always, make sure you go to our 1075 The Game webpage and sign up for the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway. If a Gamecock batter hits a Grand Slam, you could win cash. The pot up to $350. $350 goes up $25 for every game. And tomorrow night, we'll have it here for you on 1075 The Game. South Carolina baseball against Presbyterian, 6:15 pregame. 6:30 first pitch over at Founders Park. And if you're signed up for the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway, go to 1075thegame.com and register. If you're not, you could win $350 if a Gamecock batter hits a Grand Slam tomorrow night. 803-404-6100. Busy weekend that was, and Preston Thorne's got some observations that he is ready to share. Let's do a little Thorns, Buds, and Roses.
It's time for Thorns, Buds, and Roses with Preston Thorne on the early game. 1075 The Game.
All right, Bill, big weekend. A lot of things happening over the weekend, things that caught my attention. And, Bill, I had my college career ended prematurely.
Oh.
Because the team that I was on, the team that I was captain on, my Padres, we were involved in a brawl.
Yes, you were.
Against the Clemson Tigers. Noted word, brawl. And so it offends me when I hear people saying that the NBA players participated in a brawl this past weekend. The Timberwolves and...
So bad you can't even remember.
Can't even remember the other team. The Timberwolves participated in what was blared across ESPN and The Athletic as a brawl. And so, Bill, I went to the highlights thinking I was going to see a brawl. And what I saw, Bill, was a scuffle, a skirmish. Maybe it graduated to a brouhaha, but it was not, in fact, a brawl. And this incenses me because we use words for reasons because words mean things.
Those two.
And when I do not, in fact, see an actual punch thrown, it cannot qualify as a brawl. It was not a brawl. It was a little skirmish. And here's the problem, Bill. We've grown up with a generation of people that are not used to seeing their athletes fight. When we saw athletes fight all the time, there's clips of Jordan fighting. There's clips of Barkley and Shaq throwing the ball at each other, swinging, and Shaq throwing his big punch at Big Country, Greg Ostertag, I think he was trying. We always saw people fighting. It wasn't a big thing. We saw baseball fights. And now since we're so starved to see fights, we're quick to label this as a brawl. It was not a brawl. It was a skirmish at best. And it probably shouldn't even have been worthy of top flight on ESPN. Please stop using brawl the wrong way. 2, Buds.
Okay.
I don't know whether it's time to nip it in the bud right now or if we're going to see the start of something new.
Oh, boy.
Torpedo bats. The Yankees are just hitting home runs everywhere. Hit 11 home runs in the first series. They're on pace to hit 594 home runs this year. The previous team record was 307. I don't know what we need to do with this. It's caught my attention. Do we need to stop this now, or do we just let this thing go? Is this a thing? I don't know. The torpedo pads look weird. The equivalent of somebody walking out to the wiffle ball game with the big red bat. Like, hey, that's not what we're using. We're all using this. You can't use that. And you're like, oh, it's just a bat. It's perfectly legal. I don't know. Let's put a pin in this one and keep an eye on it.
Okay.
I don't know.
I got to come back to that one, too.
And obviously, roses. We need 5 roses for the women's basketball team for their 5th Final Four in a row. And what you pointed out, maybe even a half dozen. Maybe we should give them 6 just
I'd probably throw a 6 in there.
Just throw 6 rows in there because we think it would have been their 6th straight Final Four opinion. What a fun time to be a fan of this program, of this team. And Bill, I've stated it earlier, my favorite player on the team, Sanaya Fagan. She balled out, had a great game. That is one of the things that's impressive about this team, is that it's always somebody new. Malaysia Fulwali had the big game on Friday night. New lineups, new things that are happening with this team. To me, making the Final Four marks success for the season. Now, it's just trying to go out and win however you can, try and finish this thing out. So 6 roses for the women's basketball team, 6 years in a row, 5 years that they've definitely made it, and I guess 1 extra for Sanaya Fagan, my favorite player on the team. Bill, those are our thorns, buds, and roses.
All right. As you were talking, I've been sitting here watching the brawl. Let's start with that.
Mm-hmm.
This looks like more like a hugging contest.
Thank you.
This is the I'm gonna talk trash, and then we're gonna hook up, kind of hug, because if I've got you in a hug and you've got me in a hug, we can't really throw punches, and then everybody else jumps in and is hugging. Get back guys, and it's just one big mass hug, really.
Mm-hmm.
That then everybody just has to be split up.
Yeah, I know that road. That's exactly what I did in the 2004 brawl, quote unquote. Just link up with somebody and be like, hey, man, you all right? You all right? All right, cool. Let's keep it moving.
The Pistons, you remind me of that.
Timberwolves and the Pistons.
It was Timberwolves and Pistons, yeah, I'm watching. And again, the brawl was the Pacers and the Pistons, I believe.
Yes.
And that was actually the Friday night before y'all's brawl.
A brawl.
Yeah.
Two brawls.
To me, a brawl is spread out amongst, like...
Bill, you know why this wasn't a brawl? Because the people that were sitting in the fans in the front stands, none of them felt danger.
Right.
They all was sitting there like, oh, this is fun. A brawl, you got to feel some danger for your life. Like something could go
Referee has to go down. East Carolina, North Carolina State during bowl season. Brawl. When you got guys chasing each other to the other end of the field.
Correct.
Yeah, this was one big hug.
Skirmish.
This was
a slight misunderstanding.
I'm with you on that. The torpedo bats. I gotta look more into this. I did see on Saturday where the Yankees just absolutely exploded right out of the gate. I think it was the first 3 batters, I believe, hit home runs right off the bat. I think they won 20-9. Yankees are 3-0 on the season. I'll be honest. Not on my list of things to follow this weekend. I did see torpedo bats, but I'm not real sure what torpedo bats are.
We can come back to it tomorrow. Just put a pin in it. Just something to just keep your eye on. Let's track the story as it develops. Because here's the thing. You have the torpedo bats along with the short porch at Yankee Stadium, and it's like, I don't know about this.
That's very true. Very true. So, yeah, I've got to pay a little bit more attention.
It's cool. It's just something. Just put it on the back. Put it in the crock pot of your mind. Just put it in there. And
I'll let it marinate.
It's developing.
I'll let it marinate. So, yeah, I'll do that. This is probably because it was such a good sports weekend, I got to admit, I followed Major League Baseball a little bit, but there was just so much going on that I was in on Thursday. But then by yesterday, I checked back in last night, 7 o'clock, when everything had slowed down just a little bit, and watched the Braves, who have now lost their first 4 for the first time since 2021, ironically, the year that they won the World Series. So just a little stat there to keep up with. But the Braves off to an 0-4 start. And then you mentioning, obviously, Dawn Staley's team. Interesting game yesterday. We've talked a lot about it. Very entertaining to watch them. Not sure whether they got lulled to sleep or what exactly happened, because there's early in the game, I think it was they were up 25-16, and it felt like they were a few plays away from turning that into a rout and kind of a snoozer.
Yeah, I think that's Duke's game. Duke wants to make that a low-scoring affair, and they were successful. And it's one of those styles makes fights type of deals where Duke was able to completely execute their game plan. And sometimes South Carolina, they get stagnant offensively, and that's exactly playing into the hands of what Duke wanted them to do.
Let's hear. This is Dawn Staley after the game yesterday, talking about how the team handled things in real time, how they were able to go about doing it. Here's Dawn Staley yesterday.
I mean, I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but we've handled things in real time. Like, I really don't think I've had a team that has been able to communicate as early. Like, when we see something, we act like a look, sound, feel. Like, they will say what's happening, and you can deal with it in that moment. They don't wait until a week later. Like, they really want to win. They really want to be the best that they can be, and they're unafraid to be vulnerable and discuss shortcomings. They just want to know, how I can hurdle that and what I need to do to get through that moment. And we can be us as coaches. We could just, okay, she wants this. She really wants this. Like, let's talk about it. So that's been pretty cool that this team is able to give in to real talk. And I think that's what gets us over the hump. Like, they just talked about what their process is in stressful situations, and they talk their way through them, and they help each other out, and then we execute. Because Chloe missed back-to-back free throws, which is something that, that she doesn't normally do. So we went back to her. She finished it. Now she's a lot more confident than she was after she missed those 2 free throws.
So being able to handle it there, as you heard Dawn talk about in the final minutes and pull that game out in the final, really 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah, there wasn't any doubt as to whether or not they were going to have the resiliency to get the game. It just seemed like Duke had things lining up their way. The underdog story was sort of coming along. The offensive foul, the heave of a 3, it just had that feeling, but fortunately things did not work out.
The other part of that yesterday was the monster, the behemoth that is South Carolina women's basketball. It wasn't just on the court. Watching the game, I don't know if you agree with this, watching the game, and they made comment of this, it looked like a home game for South Carolina. Like, it looked like when you get, not only do you get Dawn Staley, when you have to face him, not only do you have to face Dawn Staley, not only do you have to face all kinds of McDonald's All-Americans, wherever you go, you've got to face maybe one of the best fan bases. I don't really pay attention to Tennessee or Connecticut. I know Connecticut has a strong fan base as well, but you're facing one of the most rabid fan bases because of the level of success in women's basketball. And it appeared to have a little bit of a shock on Duke down the stretch yesterday, almost Duke playing a road game in Birmingham, Alabama against South Carolina.
And I'll also add on to that, I was on Main Street, 3 different establishments packed, pin drop you could hear as things were getting really tight, and people were very much invested into
Wow, and I tell you, was it not fun to see what the band was doing even? I mean, oh my God.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, there's a lot there. Of course, Preston has also asked, can you be a fan and be honest with yourself on calls down the stretch? Yesterday, Bree Hall had a very interesting foul late in the game. She talked about the end-of-game sequence after the game.
I'd definitely say, yeah. It was great because when I got that charge, our coach Mary, came up to me and she was like, it's okay, like, it's all right, like, you have to get the defensive stop. And I was like, okay, like, let me just turn the page as quick as possible, because I was about to have a meltdown, I ain't gonna lie. But, I just flipped the page and I was ready to catch that rebound.
There you go.
That's exactly the process I thought her brain was going through. Like, did I just lose the game for us on something silly? Not even having the ball or off the ball. It was and that's why I felt like things were lined up. It was the worst possible scenario. No time goes off the clock, turnover, foul. They get the ball, they advance it without having to actually advance it. It just felt like, oh, this is gonna be bad. And then you see the player heave up a 3. It's like that's gonna go. It just felt like that thing. Fortunately, it did not happen.
Yeah, when she let the ball when the 3 left the girl's hand, I was like, this is bad. And of course, she missed badly. By the way, missed badly. 803-404-6100. We'll come back. We'll get back to the men's side of things. Woohoo! All 1 seeds, my kind of tournament. We'll tell you about it. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years, Larry Leitner and the family, they've been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. It is that proven history that is your assurance that their professionals will provide proper advice, service, and results to the needs of you and your facility. They're going to do it in a manner both safe and pleasing to you and your operation. Whether it's your home or your business, Mid-State Roofing is there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, ready to take your phone call, ready to help you with a maintenance contract. You'll speak with an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee. So it doesn't matter if it's 3:30 in the morning, 6 a.m. in the morning, or right now at 8:30, Mid-State Roofing is there to help you, because at Mid-State Roofing, they design and install bonded systems with a protective guarantee that'll keep your operation dry and running long into the future. Give them a phone call today, 803-356-1919. If you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek.
Highway 1 near Watling Road, we have a report of an accident there, so do allow for a slowdown. Also, I-77 northbound at Garters Ferry Road. That would be exit 9 on I-77 northbound. 79, that'll be the high today, but we do have the strong storms expected sometime after 2 o'clock this afternoon. They're saying kind of between 2 and 8 or 9 p.m. are the hours in which we could be expecting some of this more severe weather. 77 will be the high tomorrow under cloudy skies. And then for the rest of the week, we're in the 80s, upper 80s by the end of the week. and even into Saturday. But it's cloudy right now, and it's about 65 on 107.5 The Game.
Reminder, we got baseball for you this week, 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch for South Carolina baseball tomorrow night against Presbyterian right here, 107.5 The Game in Columbia, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. And I tell you what, right now, let's give you a chance to go to that. We have 2 family 4-packs of tickets, 2. So we'll give them to callers 3 and 4. Caller 3 gets a family 4-pack of tickets. Caller 4 gets a family 4-pack of tickets. First pitch over at Founders Park against Presbyterian tomorrow night, set for 6:30. So if you want to get out, you just heard Jen mentioning maybe storms tonight, but weather supposed to be great tomorrow. 803-404-6100. We've got 2 family 4-packs of tickets to give away right now for baseball tomorrow night against Presbyterian. Give us a phone call, 803-404-6100. Also, we had a question in on men's soccer against Davidson. It is their spring season. I just texted with Tony Annan and was told they won. They beat Davidson 1-0 over the weekend. So Tony Annan's ball club rolling along there, and we will be having him back in studio probably in about 2 weeks after the Masters. And he will come back in and join us, give us an update on the spring season and all kinds of other things, his favorite bands and where we stand right now with Oasis and anything like that. So 803-404-6100. So this is what I like. And I do wonder if this is a precursor to the future with the transfer portal, NIL. Preston, now as we come to the part of the NCAA tournament that I think is anticlimactic. In the past, I will say this, in the past, when you get here, I saw somebody put up a tweet earlier, and it showed off the Final Four, I think from 2 years ago, when it was like San Diego State, Florida Atlantic, UConn was in it, and one other team that I think was a brand name team. I can't remember whom, but I'm all for this kind of Final Four, but I feel like if this is what we're going to get moving forward, and this very well may be getting it where it's basically the elites, I might have a change of opinion in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I'm not sure. We have to do a statistical analysis and be clear that we're not just getting clouded by nostalgia, because I'm not sure how often it was that some Cinderella team actually got in here. Obviously, there's been stories leading up to this point, but you have different conferences being represented. You have the ACC represented, the Big 12, right? SEC, who was allegedly the most dominant conference, so it's only right that they have 2 of the 4 teams. That makes sense. Duke has the best player, best storied player in Cooper Flagg. Some of the best players. That makes sense.
Well, you got the other guy who is up for Player of the Year. You basically got the top 2,
right?
And Johanny Broom. So
this all makes sense, and this seems like the way it should. If the seedings were done properly, this seems like how it should play out. There's been some hiccups along the way, but what about the quality of basketball? Are these going to be good games? Well, that's sort of my question as far as how far you go with this.
Also, let me just go back to let me circle back to that in a second. You also have 2 up and comers, Todd Golden, and John Shire, and you have 2 grizzled veterans that have a little bit of baggage coming with them to the Final Four. It's interesting that you get Kelvin Sampson and Bruce Pearl, 2 guys. And again, they were showing something up here. I'm a Bruce Pearl fan. I like Bruce Pearl. I've met him. Kelvin Sampson, I haven't met. I don't know. But
and make sure you say Kelvin.
He's
been very specific about that.
But it is funny. You got 2 young guys who are kind of considered the next generation of coaches, and you got 2 guys who are. Well, they've got a lot of questions about their past. So it's interesting. But I'm with you on. I'm with you on the games themselves. It doesn't. Florida Auburn. Obviously these 2 teams met earlier in the season. Auburn beat Florida 90-81. Excuse me, Florida beat Auburn 90-81. That game was at Auburn, and Auburn was number 1 at the time in the country. That's when they played. I remember watching the game. It was a Saturday game, and Florida went in there and kind of handled Auburn rather easily. That was the first time I really kind of took notice of Florida. I was like, they're not that bad. I think part of the problem for me with Florida is I saw South Carolina and I saw Florida, and it took Florida hitting a last-second shot to beat South Carolina.
That makes sense.
And I haven't given them much credit since then. But Florida's playing as good as, so you get a game that is a rematch of earlier this year that was 90-81. And on the flip side of that, Duke-Houston, I feel like that's either going to be not pleasing to the eyeballs because it's going to be like 60-58, or Duke's going to blow them out something like 80-60.
Because Houston wants to muck the game up, to use Coach Staley's words. They want to bring it down into the gutter and make you play that style of basketball. If you are reseeding these teams, Duke is the best team left right now. If you're reseeding these Final Four teams,
well, no, because I mean that's an opinion question. And I only say that because the top 4 seeds are all there, and Auburn was the number 1 national seed.
Gotcha.
They got the number. So you can make the case if you wanted to. You can make the case and say yes, Duke's playing better. You know, you can certainly. I wouldn't argue with you on that, but I mean, technically there doesn't have to be a reseeding of situations here because going by how they seeded the national seeds and where they put everybody, you've got technically 1 versus 4. Auburn versus Florida, and 2 versus 3, Duke against Houston.
So going back to Bruce Pearl's wisdom of only needing to win six games,
they've won 4, 4 quick ones.
He's right there.
And again, we'll see what happens. I mean, look, I will be entertained. I will now make a point on Saturday night wherever I'm at to watch these games. I'm leery on these games. That Duke-Alabama game I was really into, really excited to see what was going to happen, and Duke just shut them down. And so based on what happened with Duke and Alabama, I would probably, if you were to ask me to reseed them, yes, I'd probably move Duke ahead of Auburn. But you do actually get all 4 of your national seeds in here with 1, 2, 3, and 4, and so therefore it kind of works out as they had it planned. 803-404-6100. We'll come back. We will start to wrap things up here. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for the Egton Law Firm. Boy, it is tax season. It is in full force, but you might be dealing with taxes in the wrong way. You might have received one of those mean, nasty notices from the IRS, and now they could be going after you. They could be going after you with liens or levies, and if that is the case, you need to contact John Egton and his team, and you need to do it like today, right now. You need to hear the phone number and then give them a phone call because time is of the essence. The Egton Law Firm can help you. They have dealt with the IRS before. They know how to navigate the IRS maze. So give them a phone call today, 803-771-9800. Again, that's 803-771-9800. They got a local team that's dedicated to resolving your income or business tax issues for good, and they do understand the challenges you're facing, and that's why they're there to help you. 803-771-9800. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Wrapping it up here is we have had a lot to discuss this morning. What a weekend. What a day yesterday, just alone, from noon all the way up until this. By the way, it was a quick Braves game last night. Like 2 hours and 30 minutes, Preston.
It's my style.
Very quick.
Like that.
But noon to about 9:30 because, again, you had South Carolina baseball on the SEC network. You had the women's game at 1 o'clock against Duke. At 2:20, you had the first Elite Eight game. At 3 o'clock, you had NASCAR. At 5:15-ish, you had Auburn, Michigan State. And then at 7 o'clock last night, you had Braves, Padres. I had every TV in the house going. I had snacks everywhere. It was a wild situation. It was a lot of fun, and so we've had plenty to talk about. Also, yesterday, thrown into the mix was Gamecock softball, who, again, I just saw first on Twitter, their first series win in Baton Rouge since 1997. Nearly 30 years. So, again, kudos to Ashley Chastain Woodard and the softball team there on that victory. 803-404-6100. Let's get out to the phone lines. Lee in Florence wants to weigh in this morning. Lee, how you doing? What's on your mind?
Hey, good to talk to you guys this morning. Hope everybody's okay. Watching the game yesterday, about the Braves game, it went by so fast because if you don't hit the ball and you get three out,
Yeah.
3 in a row, and the game's going to go by pretty quick.
It's very true.
That's the worst thing I've ever seen. I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn if it was standing right in front of them anyway.
Now they go to L.A., by the way, to start this week. Oh, boy, not what you need.
I'm a 90s Braves fan, and what I saw then and what I see now is like apples and oranges. It's crazy. But,
yeah.
Just a couple observations from the Carolina game. Tessa Johnson and Wiley yesterday, they act like they weren't ready to play, and they actually lost on the floor. I don't know what was going on, and even in the game before that, Tessa Johnson, she got hit in the face, and then all of a sudden she was like, I'm out of the game. I just think there should be a little bit more toughness because you're playing three of the teams that are left, the three teams that you lost to, and you got blown out in your own building by UConn and got beat by UCLA pretty bad. So if they don't toughen up and don't actually start playing like they are capable, they're not going to squeak by these other teams like they've done Duke and Maryland.
Yeah, that was a weird game, and I'm not trying to make excuses. I don't know if. Dawn Staley talked a little bit about what Duke's defense did. I don't know if the girls got up, and obviously they had already knocked off Duke earlier this year. And so I'm not real sure if they got up and they thought that this would just be easy again and they would roll right along or what happened, because they definitely did seem yesterday to, I don't know if take their foot off the brake is the right word, but something kind of happened early on. Preston, you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, I think Duke is a good team. But to the caller's point about Tessa Johnson, she's going to need to make some shots coming down in these last two games. I think that goes without saying. So she's going to have to get herself ready and become, tournament Tessa that we remember from last year. That's going to have to be a thing and for them to continue to advance.
Appreciate the phone call, Lee. And, yeah, certainly. We'll talk more about that as the week rolls along. 803-404-6100. We'll maybe get into this a little bit more coming up, but obviously something from yesterday morning, Kevin Willard taking the Villanova job. And this is something we got to get into because there's some financial ramifications here that have nothing to do with his contract, but how Villanova's going to spend money against how Maryland was going to spend money.
I told you to keep an eye on this. This is something that has been developing for a while. It's a very interesting story. Just highlights and illustrates some of the choices and decisions that coaches, ADs, programs, et cetera, are going to have to make in this modern college athletics world.
Yeah, it'll be something worth following because with revenue sharing coming in and the split, there's a good article that's a little bit more centered on Maryland and what happened, but a really good article on that kind of in terms of what transpired and what may be about to transpire with revenue sharing and what could happen in the future. I think it's something to keep an eye on because coaches may want to go places where obviously they know they're going to get a larger share of that revenue share money than they would at other places.
Yeah, it's going to go back and forth. Even when we're assuming that the revenue share package is going to pass and it's going to move forward, there's still a couple of possible hangups on that. So a lot of this is all based on speculation. But Kevin Willard did not feel comfortable and or safe at the University of Maryland.
803-404-6200. All right, let's get one more in. Scott wants to weigh in this morning. Scott, how you doing? What's on your mind? Oh, Jen? See if
a
we can...
little bit. They started out, they were on fire. I mean, they were way better than they were against Maryland. They, Duke couldn't do anything the first 5, 6, 7 minutes of the game, and we jumped all over them. I just realized that Fulwiley just was reckless. When she came in, she was just shooting shots she shouldn't have shot, throwing the ball away, stuff like that. She just and Dawn finally took her out of the game. She didn't play a whole bunch the second half. But we do miss Cardosa. I do believe we do need to get another big girl. Dawn needs to get another big girl in there next year. We need a big girl in there, especially when you play teams like UCLA, who's got the big girls. But they're good, but we're going to have to see against those other teams. I think they can do it, but it's going to be a tough road. But I still think they can do it. But
yeah, I appreciate the phone call there, and we'll, again, talk more about it as the week rolls along. A lot to get into. We'll do some baseball tomorrow. Maybe come back. That Kevin Willard situation, I think, again, highlights. And is this the last time we see the SEC really dominant in basketball?
That's a good question.
I'll ask about that. We'll talk more tomorrow. Y'all have a great day.